Hey everyone, thanks for joining. So let's wait for a couple of more minutes so that more people can join. Till then, you can just introduce yourself in the comments if you want. So let's just start a webinar. And I may like to first, yeah, okay, that's right. So first of all, I welcome everyone to this webinar. Thank you very much for participating. I can see a huge turnout of people. And it's good to see when people actually join your webinar, and it's a very motivating factor here. So the title of today's webinar, as you can see on the screen, is to book 10 high-ticket meetings every week. So basically, this is the strategy that actually I have used for decoding and cracking the formula of booking at least 10 meetings per week that are of high values, right? So we will learn this webinar, how it is done and what strategies I have adopted. But before moving on, let me just give you a quick introduction of mine. As many of you might be new to Sales Handy, so I would just like to give my brief intro. That I am Pratesh. I am customer's voice. I am product marketer at Sales Handy. I represent our customers, our users in Sales Handy, represent the pain points, and also I help businesses to outreach to the clients and make sales through cold email automation. And I also help them make their revenue pipeline profitable. And I also keep on publishing content and resources around deliverability, so you don't have to worry about your technical side. You can mainly focus on cold emailing and generate more revenue for your business. So for the people who are new, let me just introduce you to Sales Handy. That Sales Handy is a cold email automation platform for your lead generation use cases. You might be booking meetings, you might be using it for generating revenue. So it's all about you. You can just do outbound and automate your outreach, and Sales Handy is the all-in-one place for you. We help people to grow and scale their lead generation efforts, as I just discussed. Like Sales Handy helps you book more meetings, closing more sales. It helps you build a new pipeline. We have already helped around 10,000 businesses around the globe. We have a huge customer base that likes our product, and they keep on giving us updates about what should we do, how it should be do. So it's all about the customers, and everything comes from you, and we build around it, and we help you make successful. So what's the agenda of today's webinar? As I just told in the beginning, that we might be, I will be sharing that how actually I booked 10 meetings that are of high value in 1 week. Actually, this is a dashboard that you're seeing. It's of a client that I helped. Uh, they are IT services, so I just helped them scale their outreach, and I experimented with the outreach. So this is the result ultimately what I have been able to achieve, as that in the last 7 days, I have been able to book at least 13 meetings. You can see on the screen with around 2,000 prospects. So I want to share my strategies and tactics, that how actually I achieved it, and what's the activities behind the curtain, and how you can also make your outreach automated and efficient to reach this benchmarks. So let's just move ahead and see what are the milestones and what are we going to discuss in this webinar. So there are going to be 5 sections here, short and crisp and direct. I'll be sharing you the actionables. I'll be sharing you how I did it. I will be sharing all the templates, so you can just repeat it for yourselves, or you can also reach out to me at the end of the webinar, or maybe later after this webinar, so I can also help you out. So the first thing that we're going to learn is that what are the questions that actually that we should ask ourselves before even starting out your cold emailing. So I will be discussing that what are the factors that affect the questions or your cold email performance, because these are basically the core questions that every cold emailer or every business that wants their outreach to scale through cold emailing should ask. Number 2, we'll be learning that how we can create the ICP using a proven template that I have used to curate my ICPs, sorry, and to build a list with different databases. In the third section, we will learn that after creating ICPs, how to find actually the right database to source your ICPs. So we have made the list. Now we need the right database to actually build the ICPs list, so that our ICPs are of good quality, our leads are of good quality, they don't bounce, and we receive at least good response rate from them. And the fourth point, after that, we have exported the list from the databases. I'll be telling you that how to automate an outreach with different variations of your copy in order to get high ticket bookings. So I will be just sharing you that how you can automate the sequences for different segments of ICP and what to test and how to test it in Sales Handy, so we can just automate it. Lastly, but not the least, I'll be telling you that when we have reached a certain benchmark after automating and experimenting with outreach, I'll be telling you that how you can actually scale it further. So this is all about the milestones that we're going to discuss in this webinar, and at the end we're going to have a Q&A session in which you can ask me some questions, or maybe later also. I'll be available on my email ID. So let's just begin without any delay. So let's just start with the first milestone of this webinar, that start asking questions. Yeah, so before starting out with any cold email outreach or any campaign, you should ask yourself three very important questions. Now, the first question is that why are you actually sending cold emails? What's the principle behind it? Why you actually want to do it? We're going to later discuss how and what are the questions that specifically you want to ask yourself. Number two, that will your prospects pay for your offer? Now, after we have just decided that what are the factors that we're going to pitch to our prospects, so we need to make sure that if they're going to pay for it, if they are ready to pay for it, then the third question is how much they're going to pay for you. So these are the three basic questions that every business who wants to scale with cold emailing or who wants to boost their lead generation efforts should ask to themselves. So let's just start with the first questions, that why are you sending cold emails? So basically, if any of these criteria doesn't fit your cold email, then you should rethink that why actually are you doing cold email. Your cold email must set one of these criteria, like if you're helping your prospects gain some revenue or not. Like if you're selling some marketing or advertising package, or maybe you are helping out with TikTok ads, maybe. So in this way, you are helping prospects to gain revenue. The second thing is, are you helping them to reduce any cost? If you're not helping them to gain any revenue on business front, maybe you will be helping them reducing cost. Like for example, if some of you might be IT businesses or might be selling some IT services, so you help actually, you can help your prospects by reducing cost. So in this criteria, you actually help people with a pain point of high cost, and this is a second criteria that fits to be a befitting cold email outreach. If you're not helping your prospects gaining any revenue or might be not reducing any cost, then definitely you should be solving a critical problem. Critical problem, like for example, maybe they may be facing problems with their compliance. Maybe they might be having problems with their manual outreach. They want to save much more time. They want to increase the productivity. So these are the critical problems that you can actually target and help your prospects. So before sending out any cold email outreach, curating any ICP, you should ask these three questions. If your cold email befits any of these criteria, then you are good to go ahead. Now, the second question is that if your cold email falls within these three criteria, right? Either you are helping them gaining revenue or reducing the cost, or maybe you are solving a critical problem. Then you should ask yourself, will prospects pay for your offer? Yeah, you are actually helping your prospects, right? But will they actually pay for you? So if you are a service, so I would suggest you that you should ask yourself a question that are you reaching out to businesses who are actually likely to pay for your services? Like, so there might be prospects who might be needing your services. They might have actual pain points, but it's very necessary at the end of the day to confirm that they will pay for it, right? So, or if you are a product, so you might ask yourself a question that if you're reaching out to people or businesses who are likely to have a genuine interest into your product, are they having any genuine problems that you are solving? So these are the questions that you should ask yourself before starting out, after you have decided the criteria. So this is the second most important question that will lead to a very effective cold email outreach. Last but not the least, yes, the prospects are actually having pain points. They are willing to pay to you. Now you have to decide that how much they're going to pay you. This is important because this would actually make your ROI much more. It will make your ROI stronger. So if you figure out that they're going to pay you, then you should actually segment your customers into three different sections: high value contracts, mid value contracts, low value contracts. These figures are just for references. the value for HVC might be different for different people. It might be $10,000 for you. It might be $1,000 for you, right? So you have to actually decide your criteria, that how you want to segment your prospects or your ICPs into these three parts. You must decide that who are the customers who are going to pay you the most, who are going to pay you moderately, and who are going to pay you the less. So in this way, you actually segment your prospects effectively. And this priorities, these two questions actually help you out making your goal clear, so that we can actually move ahead with setting up your ICPs and to make your cold email much more targeted and converting. So after you have actually asked these three questions, you have answers to this. So we can just move ahead and curate your ICP. So this is the second milestone of your webinar. Now we will learn here that after we have asked ourselves and got the answers about that, why are we actually sending out the cold email? Are we solving any problem? Do our prospects will pay for our services or product or the problem that we're solving, and how much they're going to pay? So after this, we'll just move ahead and create the ICPs. Now, there are various methods of doing it. Like you might go into the web and search for how to create an ICP. You might be getting multiple sources of it, but they are not tried and tested, right? You have to do everything from scratch. But what I have for you is I have an available template that you can actually use for your business. And it's all already proven and tested for me. So it might also work for you. You just have to follow the same steps in the template. You have to fill that information. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you will be having a very good segment of different ICPs for your outreach. So in this section, we're going to talk about three different points, like how to use that template that I'm going to share you in the next slide, and how to put your historical data in it if the historical data is available. If not, then we just going to assume we're going to research our ICPs out in the market. Maybe we're going to talk with few more people. We're going to interview them. And through that, you can also gain some information and you can fill in that sheet. Now, after we have the information available in the sheet, in the given template, we're going to filter them out on different criteria. First, on the basis of their account values. Like as we discussed, we're going to segment them in three different parts. So we're going to first filter them on these spaces. And lastly, we're going to filter them on the buyer personas, like for job titles. So let's just move ahead and see how actually it's done. So now in the slide, I'm going to share with you an ICP template. After this webinar, I'll definitely mail you out this so you can actually use it, and you can fill in the information and create your ICPs. So let's just move in and see what this template is all about. Let me just switch my tab. Just a moment. I'm just sharing the tab. Okay, so if you can see this tab, so here's the ICP template, which I have actually used right now. You can see here is a sample data that I have just filled out for demonstration purposes. I actually help different clients with this templates, and this has proven a great deal for me, because as you can see, I converted 13 meetings in a week. So this template has helped me a lot in that. So this is a very straightforward approach towards creating your ICPs. The first assumption here is that if you have any historical data or not, you don't have to worry about that. You can talk to people whom you want to reach out to. Like if you want to, you have to first ask yourself three questions that I actually shared in the first three slides. Like if you are solving any genuine problems, it's benefiting them. If they're going to pay you, if yes, how much they're going to pay you. So these are the three questions that you should ask your targeted audience. Maybe you can reach out to them on LinkedIn. You can email them. You can call them in a video conference call. Like you can just interview them with a few sets of questions, and you can fill information over this sheet. So let's just discuss what this sheet is all about. So we have actually segmented this ICP template in 3 or 4 different parts, like demographic and firmographic details of your ICP. The second is like their traits, their behavior, what actually they do, what's the problem and what's the budget, and all kind of traits we're gonna fill in it. Lastly, we're gonna have banked, that's how urgency they what's the urgency of solving the problem. If they might have budget, but they might not have need at this time, they might be needing it the need after maybe some few quarters, right? So it's also necessary that you find out clients or ICPs who are actually needing your services in present time. They have budget, they have authority, they have need, and also they have urgency to solve it in the current framework, right? Lastly, we gonna have some historical data about the revenue. Like if you have data about how much revenue you have converted with your prospects, so it's gonna help you around segment your ICP list. So let's just start with the first that I have given here two sample ICPs. Like these are two companies, maybe Slack Inc. and Purple Inc. So I have filled out information here like their industries, what's their employee size, how many years they have been in the business, and what's their estimated revenue. You can get this data from Crunchbase, Zoom Info. If the data is not available, maybe you can make a rough estimate and you can just fill it out here. If you don't have any historical data, maybe you can also fill out the information about their funding status. This is much more important because the companies that are funded, who are not bootstraps, they are much more ready to pay you for your services. There's a high chance because they have got a recent funding, and you can also use this information in personalized tags, and this may help you as a trigger and getting much more response rate for your cold emails. One more important field here is the job title. It's important that you note down that who was the person who actually you sold the service or the product. Was like he was a CTO, he was a founder, he might be from the managerial position. So it actually helps us know who was the decision maker. We will also fill that information below in some field there. So later on, it will help us create some filters around it. So after we have filled in the demographic and firmographic details for your ICP from historical data, we might be needing some traits, like what are the objectives of your ICPs. So if you're reaching out to someone, it's also important to know their goals, like what they want from you. They might be having some existing problems that you're targeting. So you must be crystal clear about what actually they want from you. So like for you, for example, I have filled in like for this Slack Inc. They want to reduce the AWS cost. If you are an IT service, so you would be understanding it better. So their end goal might be reduce the AWS cost, and this is where you will actually pinpoint on the problem while cold emailing them. While the second customer also wants somewhat the services around AWS, but their traits are quite different from the first ICP. You can see it's quite extensive. It's like it's also they also want like they also want to fulfill the objectives of working around Azure and different cloud platforms, right? So you can also fill this information in this template I'll be sharing out with you. Last, that you have to also fill in that what was their budget, what's their spending around, how much they spend around solving their problems in a year. So it will help you deciding your HCV, your MCV, and your LCV, like how much contract value your prospects are having. And also you should also mark down your decision makers, whether the people you sold service were decision makers or not. Sometimes what happens, the end user is different and the decision maker for the particular service is different. So you'll be actually dealing with a decision maker while making the sales. Having the relevancy of a service and execution of service is different. It's part of the executive, right? But when you're dealing out with someone with a cold emails, you always should try to reach out to the decision makers, and where this information comes in useful. Last, and it's very important that you have the data about how much revenue they have paid you in the past. If you don't have any historical data, you can just make an estimate while asking them an interview that how much you likely gonna pay to us for this particular service if we solve your problem. So this is how you actually put your data in here. And how many months you have contacted with them. Like you might have provided them the service for 6 months, might be for 8 months, might be for 12 months, for 2 years. So whatever the data is, just fill in the sheet. And lastly, you have to write here, you might be using, I've also included a formula. You can just use it simply, like multiplying your MRR figure with your number of months, you'll get the figure for your lifetime value. So when you are actually done with number of ICPs, you can do it with n number of ICPs. Ideally, you should do it actually. You should do it ideally for 10. You should have at least 10 ideal customers before reaching out to anyone, before building your list with the right databases that we're going to discuss in the next slides. So you should actually have information about 10 customers here. So after we have done filling out the information for our prospects here, so this would help us make a very highly personalized ICP, and these fields we're gonna use to filter. We're gonna use these fields as a filter in the databases. We're gonna next uh, in the next slides that I'm gonna tell you that how you can actually use these fields as a filters down there. So it's quite important that we fill information genuinely and try to be accurate as much as possible. Now in the second tab, what we have to do after we have filled the information is about all the ICPs, we just have to transpose it. We have to transpose this whole sheet. What you can do is, while I have already transposed the sheet for you, but if you want to know how it's done, you can just select all the control A, you can select the whole sheet and you can just copy it, and you have to just a moment. Oh, sorry, it's in the view only mode, so it transposition is not available, but I have already made it for you, so you can just take a reference from here. So after you have filled out the information in this particular sheet, what you have to do is you have to transpose your whole data. So we can actually filter it. In this alignment, you can't filter the data properly. That's why we have just transposed it. So after you can see, I have already filled the information for about 5 to 6 ideal customers. Now we have the data over here that who are the companies who have paid you in the past and how much they have paid you, what were the job titles. Now we're going to use the filters. Like in the next slide, let me just change it. Let me just change the screen share. Now what you have to do is, after we have created our ICPs as I discussed in the template, now we have to apply the filters according to that contract value. This will actually help out launching different campaigns as for contract values and different campaigns for the job titles. So we know that which is the segment who is actually paying us and who is actually engaging with your cold email outreach. Whether it is dependent on your maybe your account size, or are they actually engaging as per your job titles. So you have a better way to actually figure out that what's your crack is. Maybe you can optimize your outreach for account value, or maybe you can optimize your outreach for job titles. So that's the purpose of actually filtering out your ICPs into in two ways. Like in the first, according to the contract values, how much they want to pay you, or how much they have actually paid you in the past. And the second, we're going to discuss about that how you can create the filters as per the job titles. So let's just switch again to the sheet, and let me just share this tab again. So what you have to do first is you have to go at the bottom here, and you can see we have the data here about how much revenue they have paid you in the past. So you can see this is the data available for some prospects. So it's going to help you around that how much they are actually paying you. So you just have to apply the filter, and this is the view only mode. So currently it's not possible. Let me just sign in. Just give me a moment. Oh my God. Yeah, successfully logged in now. One more step ahead. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Yeah, so now I'm into the sheet, and I'm going to show you how you can actually apply the filters. So what you have to do is you just have to select the entire sheets and put the filters all over. Yeah. So now when you have applied the filters, what you have to do is you have to filter it out on the basis of their contract values. Like here, you have to filter your ICPs on the basis of 3 categories. Like You can decide that what's the high contract value for you. It might be $10,000, it might be $1,000 for you. So you have to decide actually 3 categories of ICPs according to your data. For me, I have made it a sample figures over here. So what I have assumed here is that for me, the high contract value is the people who are giving me $5,000 per month. And for the mid value, it's about $3,000. And for the low contract value, it's the people who actually give me $1,000. So these are the 3 values for me. So you can actually filter them out on this 3 basis. So let me just show you how you can do it. So after you have applied this filter, so what you have to do is you have to apply the condition. You can just apply the condition over here and you can just select the figure less than. Like for example, if my low contract values are less than $3,000, so I'm just gonna have these ICPs. So yeah, you can see who are the ICPs who are actually paying me less than $3,000 in the past, who have paid me. So you will get data for different ICPs over here. So you just have to download this data in the CSV. And in the same way, you have to do it for your different contract values. You can maybe change the filter to more than greater than $5,000, right? So you will have the data for different ICPs. In this way, you have to extract the data for these 3 categories: high contract value, mid contract value, and low contract value. So after you have exported your data as per your account values, now we're going to apply the filter for job titles. In the same way, we have to apply this filter all over the sheet. And now what you have to do is you just have to apply this filter, and you can choose it according to the different job titles. You may be selecting this contains maybe for VP. So let's just see what are the results. So you can see we'll get the segment, or we'll get the ICPs who are actually belonging to these titles, right? So in this way, you have to filter out your data and export the sheet in different values, like in different contract values and different job titles. So after you have exported the data, you will have the data of, you will be actually ending up with multiple CSVs. Like the first one would be list of ICPs who have actually paid you higher contract value. Maybe it might be different for you. So you will be ending with 3 different sheets. And for the job titles, you might end up with number of sheets in the same manner. Like for example, you might be having the data for the founders, you might be having ICPs for the job titles who are VPs, who are maybe heads of some departments and managers. So in this way, you have actually segmented your ICPs that we created with this template. And now we're gonna test them with the cold email automation, that how actually they are performing and who's converting more, which segment of your ICP, like which contract value responses to your better, which job title actually engages with the cold email, and who unsubscribes you more, where's the open rate. And in this way, we'll figure out that which is the best segment and which is that pinpointed ICP who's going to pay you best, going to work for you. So after we have exported the sheet of ICPs in CSV format for these different categories, now we're gonna discuss about the third milestone of this webinar, is to that filter your ICPs from right database. Now, we actually started with asking 3 questions, then we made the ICPs, and now the third juncture is that we filter these ICPs and apply these filters in the right database to get a high quality lead list, so that we can get high engagement from our cold email outreach. So in this, we're going to discuss about 3 different points. Like first of all, we're going to apply the filters as per your sheet into your database and export. So the objective of having this sheet was to that you can actually make this particular fields apply in your databases. So I'm just going to show you how you can do it for your database. So, and in the second point, we will discuss about it. What are some good databases that you can actually use for your business use cases? And apart from databases, we'll also be listing out some scrapers that you actually use for your outreach purpose, which are actually in good condition and that will give you good results. And the third point is, what are the benchmarks for good databases? Like what's the benchmark and what's the criteria of selecting a database? How shall you actually choose that which is the best database to go after and which is resulting in good metrics for you? So let's just start with the first point over here, like apply the filters as per your sheet into your database and export. So now what you have to do is to that you have to again visit your sheets and you have to again apply the filters over here, and you have to just apply the filters in the form of fields that we already have here. So let me just show you with an example of Apollo, that actually how I have done with Apollo. So Apollo is an email database that's very handy for the people who are actually starting out in business. It's quite cheap if I compare it to very premium databases like ZoomInfo and other similar databases in the market. So if you're starting out, it has got some good quality number of leads, especially for IT industry. You can give it a try. It also has some trial plan, I guess, so you can also actually use and see what's the quality of the lead, and you can just make a paid plan subscription, right? So let me just share, and this is the dashboard of my Apollo, and I'm just going to show you that how I've actually used a fields from my CSV sheet, the template that I just shared you in my database. Let me just show you one of the templates, like I can show you for this. Yeah. So now you can see, so these are the filters that I have applied in my database. So these all filters are from the fields that I actually discussed in the template. Like you can see the job titles, you can see the location, you can see the company, employee size, their industry keywords, and many other filters you can apply. So in this way, you'll get a very highly targeted, narrow down sheet. So it's actually a good idea to always export a very narrow down sheet so you can reach out to few people, but highly effective people. So in this way, the ICP template comes in handy to you because it gives you a range of options to apply multiple filters. You don't have to guesswork. You don't have to go on web and see that how you can actually make a good list, because you can use that fields in form of filters in the database and get a very high quality list. So let me just jump in back to the webinar deck. So here it is. So I just showed you that I have used Apollo. If you want to know more about it, you can just go on to and see our resources. So I'm just going to share you that how you can do it. So you can see I've already prepared a resource for you that how you can use how you can build your email list with Apollo. So I've discussed the same methods that I discussed in this webinar, that how you can use this number of filters in the database and how you can actually make a very highly targeted and highly qualified lead list, and how you can save it and export it, and how you can actually use a verifier for it. So here you go. Here's the link for a database. I'll definitely share you after this webinar, so you can just go and see in detail how you can apply this ICP template fields in your database to get a highly targeted list. So let's just move on to the next section. It's like, what are some good databases actually and the scrapers for different industries? Well, to be honest, there is no perfect database for any industry. You have always to experiment. You have to go with different databases, different scrapers. So you have to keep on experimenting until and unless you find a good database. But for your reference, if you're starting out, I would like to suggest you some databases like Prospectus, Crunchbase, especially for the businesses who want the data for SaaS businesses, for who are actually targeting founders. So Crunchbase is kind of very reliable for them. Yes, I agree, it's quite expensive, but you can actually reach out to people over different sites, maybe like Fiverr or anything, and you can ask people to give you a very highly targeted list so they can give it to you. It's a very convenient method to get such lists without paying high amount to these databases. Another one is Prospectus that we use. It gives us different number of options. They have number of scrapers. They have number of tools available to extract leads from different platforms. So you can also use the databases. For the scrapers, the spelling is wrong. Yeah, just okay. So for the scrapers, we have here Scrapybird and TweetScraper, which help you out export your list from Twitter, because Twitter is a very good, healthy source of leads because they have very high intent of leads. For example, if you're following some influencer around who tells you about sales automation, so you can actually export the list of his followers, right? and you can actually outreach them. So these kind of scrapers are very helpful for you. Email Finder, well, I would say you can use Sales Handy Connect, which I use the most because it's free to use right now, and you can actually collect the leads for free, the email addresses from LinkedIn and different CRMs like Zoho, from HubSpot, and you can just export it to your outreach directly. If you don't want to take the burden of making your list all your own, so you can outsource your services. Like ListKit is a service that helps you around to outsource. You can just outsource them. They'll make you a quote at how much they're gonna charge for you. For example, for 1,000 email addresses, for 5,000 email addresses. So it's a very quite reliable and quite meticulous option if you don't want to make it from scratch. So you can just outsource your services. But what I would suggest is first you master the art of extracting the leads from these databases, and then you go for the outreach services. So outreach services obviously help you automate your services and save your time, but you should get hands-on with this databases, which can help you with good quality leads. Last, if you don't want to rely on these databases, you can also use some custom scrapers. If you are into e-commerce industry, StoreLeads.app is a very good option for you. Clutch.io. Maybe you can use some scrapers from LinkedIn Sales Navigator because it's a very high. It's a good source of high intent leads for B2B. So you can just use custom directories. If you want to read it in detail, you can just go over here. Let me just share my screen again for this article. Sales Handy, you will find different resources. Like we have prepared here in detail that what a database you should go for and what's the method you can extract, how to apply these filters, and how to make highly targeted lists from these particular databases. So you can see the example of Apollo. Here is the example of Crunchbase. How you can actually do it for Crunchbase. We have also made it available that what's the recommended industries for it. For example, as I just discussed, it's very good. Crunchbase is good for SaaS and startups and funding niche. You can use it for that, and how you can actually make a very good list. You can use Prospectus for it. So this is the article that you can actually go through and see that what are the different options available to you if you are going out to experiment with the ICPs and want to get good results. Let's just have a look at what are good database benchmarks. When you have actually used these prospects in a mix and you have got some results, how you'll actually decide at which database is good and how to move ahead. So here's some thumb rules that I have realized with years of this cold emailing, and particularly while booking my 10 meetings per week, that experiment. So what I have actually realized that a database that actually generates more than 50% of verified leads is good one, because there is no database in this world which can give you 100% leads verified. For me, it has been like I get 50 to 60%, maybe sometimes 70% good with leads from a database. So if you are getting a minimum 50%, so consider it as a good database. Now, when you get good number of leads, like if you are having good open rates, so open rate is a very good sign of having a good deliverability. So when you're having a good open rate, you can now test it for response rate. First of all, you should aim for landing your emails into the inboxes, because until and unless your prospects doesn't see your email, you're not visible enough, you can't actually pitch them. So having good open rate is very much important. And to maintain your deliverability, you can just visit our FAQs, docs.saleshandy.com, and see that what are the good practices of getting good deliverability, what are the techniques, what are the features that you can actually use in Sales Handy. And when you get good deliverability open rates, consider the database is good, and now scale for good response rates. Now, the third thing is that if the bounce rate of any database exceeds 3%, just skip the database because it's useless. It would do more harm to you rather than any good. So just skip the database which gives you more than 3% bounce rate. So it would actually harm your sender's reputation and deliverability too. Now, as soon as you get high responses from a database, multiply your efforts of scraping. It's not like you should only rely on databases. You can also multiply on scraping efforts from different databases, different platforms. So in this way, you scale. The first thing is to experiment, to have good deliverability, now to test with reply rates, and then you have to multiply efforts of scraping so that you get multiplied or scaled up responses and scaled up conversions. Last but not the least, as I said, I use a mixture of all these to experiment at which database is good for me, which scraper is good for me. which third-party service is good for me. So you have to crack the formula for yourself and keep these numbers in your mind while analyzing what's a good database for you. If you want to check in detail, you can just go over here and you can see like what are the good benchmarks. Like I already shared you the article, right? So this is the same one. Here you can also check that what are the different benchmarks and thumb rule for having a good database. Like let me just show you. You can just go at the bottom and see. Yeah, here. So here is the same thing that I discussed in the webinar. So it would be in your reference, like what's the metrics to follow while choosing your good database. So let me just switch back onto this webinar again. And here's the fourth milestone. Like after we have asked ourselves three important questions at the beginning, we created the list, we segmented them. We now have filtered them through the databases. We found a good database. We have a good list. Now, how to put it in test, like how to outreach and how to automate your results and how to actually get results for booking 10 meetings per week, what I actually used. So here's my formula and the most important step that you have to test different campaigns. The purpose behind segmenting your ICPs, experimenting good databases, asking yourself three important questions at the beginning was to actually test different campaigns at what is actually working for you. Now in the cold email game, there's no prior formula, any theoretical formula that certainly this is going to work for you. You have to test it out at the first hand, right? So we have segmented ICPs and all the methods that we discussed. Now we're going to test it out. So here we're going to discuss two important points. The first one is to create a separate campaign for different account values. Like now we have the list for high value contracts, mid value contracts, and low value contracts, right? So we're going to create three different campaigns for that. Also, we're going to create separate campaigns for our job titles. So you'll be having n number of campaigns, and you have to analyze them, that which campaign is doing good for you. And for the weeks passing by, you just have to keep on watching the numbers, and ultimately you have to find out that which is the good segment of ICP actually working for you. Number two, you have to keep on creating copies for different CTAs. I'm just going to share you an example also that how you can actually do it. Now, in the first one, you have to create campaigns for, as I said, different contract values and different job titles. So let me just show you that how actually I have done it. So let me just share you one of my old accounts so you can have an idea that how you can actually do it. So here you can see this is one of my agency accounts on Sales Handy, which I actually work for a client. So here you can see I've created different set of campaigns for different ICPs, different industries. So in this way, you can actually make your campaigns, and ultimately you also have to go and make two different copies, and you have to test two different copies for two different CTAs. So that's actually the crack behind how you can actually book 10 different meetings in a week, 10 unique high value meetings a week. So in this way, you have to apply all your results or your list into this Sales Handy, or you have to test it out that what's actually working for you. So this was just an example that how you can actually set your different campaigns in Sales Handy for different ICPs, different account values, or different job titles. And ultimately, we're gonna keep an eye that what's working for you and what's not working for you. Now, how to actually choose that which campaign is actually working for you. So these are some highlights that I have given below. Like you first thing that you have to see this, if you are getting good deliverability out of your lead list, like keep an eye on which segment has best open rate. Might be the people who are VPs, they might not be seeing your emails too frequently. Maybe the managers would be seeing your mails frequently. Maybe the people who are actually having high contract value are opening your emails less. So that's the things you have to keep in watch while reaching out to your prospects. The second thing is the copy engagement. Like you have to track that which copy is actually working well, how much you are getting the open rate, how much reply rate you are getting. So it depends upon the number of replies you are getting on a particular copy. So if a copy is getting good number of replies, it means the copy is engaging. If certain segments might not receive some good replies, so you have to make some changes in the copies. Because we are here testing out the segments, you don't have to change the segment here. You have to actually change the copies. So you can see that which segment is actually working for you, right? Now, the third thing is the conversion. Now you have to keep an eye, like which segment is getting good number of bookings and which is getting a good number of closures, right? So I can just show you an example that how you can do it. Like you can see in my dashboard in the screenshot, like with prospect outcomes feature in Sales Handy, you can have a close look at which segment is actually having good number of meetings, which segment is giving you good number of closures with a particular deal value. So here you can measure that which is the copy or which is the segment which actually converting you more, right? If you want to know more about prospect outcomes, you can just check out our articles. And if you are new to Sales Handy, you can just sign up and see. If you are existing user and you haven't tried out prospect outcomes, you can just reach out to me. I'll help you out how to use it for better results. Like also, you can visit our articles. We have made some good resources for you, so you can just use it for your outreach. Now you have also to track the quality of leads. Like you have to keep an eye on the bounce rate and the unsubscriptions. Like you can see here, here's a figure of unsubscription, and you can also get the data for your bounce rate. So it's very much important that at which time you have to replace your database, or might be you have to scale your results from the database. If you are getting 3% bounce rate from a database, just skip it, just replace your database, right? If you're getting number of unsubscriptions, so just check out your copy first, that if your copy is too pushy, might be there are some spammy keywords over there. So just first change your copy. If the results are same, just try to replace your databases too, because they might not be the relevant target audience, right? So in this way, you also have to keep an eye on the quality of leads. Last but not the least is the quality of ICPs. You have to keep an eye on the interest of the replies. Now we just discussed about that engagement of the copy in the second point, that you have to see that which copy is actually converting more, like or at which copy you're getting the replies. Now the reply might be positive or negative, or might be in the moderate way, like they might be needing some time. So you have to keep an eye on the quality of the responses. Again, the prospect outcomes can help you. In Sales Handy, you have unified inbox, which keeps a track of your conversations, and it directly creates a filter. When it sees the intent of the reply, it can directly filter it out. And in this way, you can just organize your leads, and you can just have an eye that which number of which segment of which sequence is performing very well for you, and what's the intent of your ICPs. So just chase the ICPs with good intent. So in this way, we can test out that which segment, which ICP, maybe high contract value, mid contract value, low contract value is working for you. And in second manner, you can also see that which job title is actually working for you. Now, as I discussed here, like in the first point, we discussed about testing out different campaigns. Like now, the second point, I am just going to show you a minor experiment which I did with some CTAs. Like you can see, these are same copies. Like the only difference is that the one has a different CTA. You can see in the first copy, I have asked about for meetings directly, and in the second CTA, I have actually provided them resources. Surprisingly, the second copy has received more engagement as compared to the first copy. So sometimes the ICPs might not be jumping to your calls, so you have to actually test your CTAs. Just try to keep the copies more or less similar, and just experiment with the CTAs. Might be the copies might be working for you, but CTAs sometimes might deceive you. So you have to test out different set of CTAs, at which CTA is actually working for you or not. So these are two hacks that you can actually use if you want to move on this roadmap for booking 10 meetings in a week. So this is just what I did with my outreach, and I shared with you, right? Now the fifth milestone and the most important milestone, that how to scale after that you have reached the benchmark. Now let's say we have started getting results, like we have started getting the reply rates, we have started getting the open rates for the particular segment. Now that particular segment is also giving us revenue. That now what's the next step? How to scale our efforts. So I'm just gonna share you how I scaled and how I experimented. So let me just click on this and show it to you. Let me just share this tab. So here you can see, here is the data that I actually worked upon. So here you can see the data for the number of prospects for which the email was sent, what were the open rates, the reply rates, that booking rate, what was my deal size, what was my book revenue, closure rate, and revenue. So we're just going to discuss about booking rate here and the reply rate, because closure rate actually depends upon your sales cycle, right? After booking, it depends highly upon your sales nature, that how many meetings you are able to close, how many account executives you have. So it's just for reference here. We just want to discuss about the booking rate here, right? So you can see that the particular columns in this yellow highlight is the numbers that I actually experiment with. I just started out with first 500 prospects, and I repeatedly outreach them in the span of 7 days. So ultimately, I was able to crack 6% reply rate for the targeted audience, and my booking rate was around 15%, right? So when I achieved this milestone and 70% open rate, I just thought to scale it down, and I just doubled down my efforts. I send it for double prospects. You can see for 1,000 prospects, and I tried to maintain the same metrics for open rate, for reply rate, for booking rate. So in this manner, I scaled out, and with scaling up, when this helped me out, like after scaling up, when I started getting similar results for my prospects, I then immediately switched to 2,000 prospects. So that was actually 4 times what I was doing initially. And in this way, I was able to book at least 13 meetings, that is at least 10 meetings a week for my clients. And this is the revenue that I actually closed for them in a particular span of 7 days. So this is how you actually scale. So if you want to scale further, like you want to, you can just scale your prospects for 5,000, then you can do it 2x, 3x, maybe up to 100x. I have seen some clients, I've seen some businesses over in the past years that who have actually scaled their businesses from zero to $1 billion. So these are the efforts that you can put in your business. You can try out these tactics, and after you have reached a benchmark, you can actually scale. One more important note that I want to give you, like if you are sending out to 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 prospects, apart from these tactics and apart from this hacks, you can actually also play more important role in setting up your deliverability and technical setup, like how many number of email accounts you should use, how many domains you should use. So that's quite different from from the outline of this webinar. So you can just go through our articles and see that what's the recommended number of email accounts and domains for your particular number of domains, so that you get better results out of your cold email outreach. So this is the way you can actually scale your outreach when you get particular benchmarks. Like for me, it was 70% open rate, 6% reply rate, and 15% booking rate. But how do you know this, that these are the benchmarks so you can scale, right? How do we actually decide when to scale? So let me just share you, okay, what's my experience and what's my realization is. Now, what I have seen in the past outreaches, like to convert one B2B lead, you have to actually send number of 300 emails. So you will get one conversion. Like you can see, I got one closure from 2,000 emails, right? So, but my booking rate was about 15%. So we can see that I actually got about, let me just show you again here. So for 500 emails, I was about to book at least 4 meetings, right? So that's the number you can use as a benchmark for yourself too. You can also experiment with you, but here's my experimentation and just thumb rules that that will help you around to optimize your outreach. The second point is that the average response rate for all the business B2B cold emails is 7%. So whenever you are above 5%, like for me, the reply rate was 6%, just scale your outreach. You have got a very good reply rate, but at the same time, it's important to see the quality of the replies. Are they rejecting your offers or they accepting the offers? So it's a positive reply rate. So just try to maintain the positive reply rate more rather than going for the rejections, because that's the ultimate purpose of optimizing your outreach, right? Now, the third is that you can also reach out to multiple people in the same organization, and that would give you highest reply rate, number of touch points you create an organization. So it has always helped me get a good reply rate. Now, last is that for about 500 people, in an average, you'll get 10% reply rate. So if you reach out to about 300 people for B2B mail sequences, if you are doing B2B, then 10% is the average reply rate that you'll get. For us, for me it was 6%. You can follow the criteria of 7% and you can scale. Well, it also depends upon different industries. If you're into IT, if you're into SaaS, the figures may change. But this is the broader view that you can go and scale your outreach. Now, thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope these all resources might help you book your meetings in book high value meetings for you. Now, if you have any questions, you can just drop your questions in the comment section, so I can also reply you. Maybe you can email me later on. I'll share the recording and all the resources with you after we are finished with this webinar. Thank you very much and have a nice day, everyone. If you are new to Sales Handy, just sign up and just try the 7 days period. It's for free, and let me know if you need any help. You can reach out to success team. You can reach out support. If you need any help, you can just visit our FAQs for it, and just keep sending cold emails and happy sending. Thank you very much.